The steady beep of monitors pulls me from a foggy sleep. I blink against the harsh fluorescent light. My mouth dry as cotton. For a moment, I can't remember where I am or why my body feels so heavy. Then the dull throb in my wrist breaks through the haze of medication. Hospital. Accident. Mom's car. I turn my head slowly, expecting to see her in the chair beside my bed. Instead, there's only empty space and a folded piece of paper on the bedside table. Something cold settles in my stomach as I reach for it with my good hand, wincing as the movement jars my broken wrist. The note is in Mom's handwriting, hasty and slanted. Had to leave for Miami. Call Nurse Johnson if you need anything. Back in 5 days, Mom. I read it 3 times, certain I've misunderstood. They couldn't have actually left me here alone. Not for their vacation. Not while I'm lying in a hospital bed, with a concussion and broken wrist. But the empty room speaks the truth my mind refuses to accept. Just 24 hours ago, we were in Mom's car. She was distracted. Her phone buzzing with texts from Mark about their trip, the $15,000 non-refundable Miami vacation he'd been talking about for months. Mark says the resort has a private cabana, she'd said, eyes darting between the road and her phone. Can you imagine? 5 whole days of... I never heard the rest. There was the screech of tires, the sickening sensation of spinning, metal crushing against metal. My scream cut short as my head slammed against the window. And then... nothing. I squeezed my eyes shut against the memory that only makes the room spin. The doctor's words from yesterday flowed back to me through the medication haze. 5 days of observation for the concussion, he'd said, his pen tapping against the chart. And that wrist will need careful monitoring to ensure proper healing. Mom's face had fallen instantly, her eyes darting to the door where Mark would soon appear. The color drained from her cheeks. 5 days? But we're supposed to leave for Miami tomorrow. Isn't there any way to? The doctor had cut her off with a firm shake of his head. Your daughter has a significant concussion, Mrs. Winters. She needs monitoring. This isn't optional. Mark arrived 20 minutes later, his cologne announcing his presence before he even entered the room. I watched through the window as he pulled Mom into the hallway, his back rigid with anger, fingers digging into her elbow. Their voices carried despite their attempt at privacy. We are not canceling this trip, Rebecca, Mark hissed, his face inches from hers. Not after I paid $15,000. But she's hurt, Mark, the doctor says. I don't care what the doctor says. She's 16, not 6. The hospital can watch her. Mom's shoulders slumped, her protest dying before it fully formed. What will people think if we just leave her here? That's what you're worried about, Mark scoffed. Tell them she's fine. Tell them whatever you want. Behind them, Lucas and Ava hovered Lucas, with that familiar smirk that always appears when something goes wrong for me. He caught my eye through the window, and his smirk widened, one eyebrow raised in mock sympathy as he mouthed, Poor Brianna. Ava's expression remained carefully blank, though her eyes darted away when they met mine. When Mom returned, her smile was too bright, brittle at the edges. It's only 5 days, honey. You'll be fine here with the nurses. Mom, please don't leave me here alone. My voice cracked, betraying the fear I was trying to hide. Mark's shadow darkened the doorway as he strode in, checking his watch impatiently. The resort won't refund $15,000, Brianna. Surely you understand that. He said my name like it was an inconvenience. Something distasteful. Then let me call Dad, I whispered, desperation making me brave. He would come to me. Mark's jaw tightened, a muscle twitching beneath his tan skin. Daniel doesn't need to know. He'll just cause problems. This is a family matter. But he's my... This discussion is over, Mark said, cutting me off. Mom glanced between us, her eyes settling anywhere but on my face. I could see the moment she gave up, choosing his approval over my need. Then she leaned down for a quick, awkward hug that smelled of guilt and new perfume. We'll bring you something nice, okay? Be good for the nurses. And just like that, they left. Mom, Mark, Lucas, and a perfect family portrait minus the inconvenient extra piece. I listen to their footsteps fading down the corridor, Lucas's laugh echoing against the sterile walls. My throat burned with unshed tears. My phone buzzes on the table. A text from Lucas. Guess you're not coming with us. Sucks for you. Attached is a photo of them at the airport, all smiles and vacation clothes. Mom looks happier than I've seen her in months, her arm linked through Mark's, Lucas, and Ava, flanking them like the family they really want to be. Something breaks inside me then, and I can't hold back the sobs that tear through my chest. The pain in my wrist flares as my body shakes, but it's nothing compared to the hollow ache spreading through me. The door opens, and a nurse with kind eyes, Nurse Johnson, her badge says, rushes to my side. Her face registers shock as she takes in my isolation, the crumpled note in my hand. "Honey, where is your family?" she asks, though I think she already knows the answer. "Miami." I whisper, the word bitter on my tongue. "They left for vacation." Her expression shifts from confusion to disbelief to something harder. "Is there someone else we can call for you? You shouldn't be alone right now." I hesitate only a moment before answering. What more do I have to lose? "My dad," I say, my voice steadier than I expected. "Please call my dad." As Nurse Johnson reaches for my chart to find his number, I realize that for the first time in years, I'm about to step beyond my mother's orbit. They left me behind, but maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what I needed to find my way forward. The hospital phone feels impossibly heavy in my hand. 7 hours have passed since Nurse Johnson helped me call my dad. 7 hours of watching the shadows stretch across the sterile tiles, the medication doing little to dull the ache in my wrist or my heart. My phone buzzes with another vacation photo from Ava. White sand beaches, turquoise waters, and 4 smiling faces: Mom, Mark, Lucas, and Ava gathered under a private cabana. The $15,000 non-refundable vacation. Salt in an already throbbing wound. Nurse Johnson brings me an extra blanket, her kind eyes checking the monitors. "Just heard from your father again. He's about 20 minutes out now." I nod, grateful for her presence during lunch when she sat with me, instead of joining the other nurses in the break room. The room feels less empty, with her motherly concern filling the spaces Mom left behind. "Brianna?" Dad's voice bursts through the doorway before he does, travel-worn and worried. His normally neat button-down is wrinkled, hair disheveled like he's been running his hands through it for hours. The moment our eyes meet, something shifts in the air between us. "I drove straight through," he says, crossing the room in 3 long strides. "Your mother told me it was just a fender bender, that you were fine." When he reaches for my hand, I flinch, a reflex born from years of disappointment. But his touch is gentle, nothing like the hasty pat Mom gave before leaving for her cabana. "She lied," I whisper, the words catching in my throat. Dad's embrace envelops me. Warm and solid, the earthy scent of his cologne, a stark contrast to the antiseptic hospital smells. Against the faded hospital blues, his presence brings warmth like autumn sunlight. "I'm here now," he murmurs into my hair. "I'm not going anywhere." The doctor enters, clipboard in hand. Dad straightens but keeps his hand protectively on my shoulder as the doctor explains my concussion, the surgery on my wrist, the observation period still needed. With each clinical detail, Dad's shoulders square, his spine straightening like a man preparing for battle. "I'd like to see all her medical records," he says, voice controlled but edged with steel, "and the insurance documentation." The doctor exchanges glances with Nurse Johnson. There were some irregularities with the admission forms. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately." I watch Dad follow them into the hallway, their voices rising and falling like waves. Through the window, I can see his profile, the way his hand covers his mouth, then forms a fist at his side. The measured cadence of his voice carries a controlled anger that makes the nurses at the station glance up. When he returns, his face has paled beneath his tan. He's carrying a folder filled with papers, his hands steadier than they should be. "Your mother didn't list you on the insurance forms," he says, setting the folder on the bed between us. And Mark wrote, "Not responsible," beside your name on the admission paperwork. The weight of those words settles in the room. Dad pulls out his phone, and the quiet click of his camera documents the evidence: me injury, the hospital room, the medical charts, the crumpled note Mom left behind. My phone buzzes with another text from Lucas. "Dad says your drama might cost him his promotion. Nice work, problem child." Dad's eyes catch the message before I can hide it. "This isn't the first time they've done this to you, is it?" he asks, his voice so gentle that something breaks loose inside me. "No," I admit, the single word unleashing years of careful silence. Dad sits beside me, warm and solid where Mom had been brittle and fleeting. "Tell me everything, Bri. I need to know." So I do. I tell him about the Disney trip where I stayed with a neighbor, because the package only included 4 people. About my bedroom being converted to a storage room so Ava could have the larger space. About Mom missing my honor roll ceremony because Lucas had a scrimmage. The separate family dinners when Mark had business colleagues over. With each revelation, Dad's jaw tightens, but his eyes never leave mine. He really listens in a way Mom stopped doing years ago. The evening shadows lengthen across the hospital room as my truths spill out, marking the close of one chapter and the beginning of another. "When did the text from Lucas start?" Dad asks, his voice careful. I show him my phone, the digital record of Lucas's taunts stretching back months. Dad's fingers click through them methodically, taking screenshots, building a case with quiet determination. "And these family trips?" he asks, pointing to another beach photo. "How many have there been?" 7, I answer. "They always had a reason why I couldn't go. Too expensive. School was too important. Someone needed to watch the house." Dad's face darkens with each detail. He reaches into his wallet and pulls out a faded photo at 10 years old, sitting on his shoulders at a county fair. "In our day, family meant everyone," he says quietly, "not just the convenient ones." My phone buzzes again. This time it's Ava. "Mom and Mark are fighting about you. Lucas told everyone at the resort your accident ruined their vacation. I'm sorry." The text surprises me, but not as much as the tears that suddenly blur my vision. Dad notices immediately. "What is it?" I hand him the phone, watching his eyes narrow as he reads. He sets it down carefully, like it might break her, like he might. "Brianna," he says after a long moment, "I need to ask you something important. Do you want to come live with me?" The question hangs between us, impossibly huge. I've imagined this moment for years, but now that it's here, fear tangles with hope in my chest. "Yes," I whisper, my voice stronger than I expected. "But Mom won't let me." Dad takes my hand again, his warm fingers steady around mine. "There's something you need to understand. What your mother and Mark did leaving you alone in the hospital to go on vacation, it isn't just wrong. It's legally abandonment." The word lands like a stone, heavy with meaning. "Hospital security has footage of them leaving," he continues. "The doctor documented their refusal to stay despite medical advice. Your texts show years of systematic favoritism and neglect. This isn't a custody disagreement anymore, Bree. This is abuse." I shake my head, the instinct to protect Mom still strong despite everything. She just wants Mark to be happy. "At your expense," Dad says firmly. "And that's not acceptable. Not to me, and not to the law." He reaches for the hospital phone and places it carefully on the bed beside me. His face is solemn, eyes warm with a protective love I'd almost forgotten existed. "This isn't just neglect anymore, Bree. This is abandonment." His voice is quiet but resolute. "Do you want to come live with me?" I nod, tears spilling down my cheeks. "Then we're calling Child Protective Services," he says, pushing the phone closer. "And I'll be right here with you while you do it." My fingers tremble as I reach for the receiver. For years, I've made myself smaller, quieter, less troublesome, hoping that if I caused no problems, maybe Mom would remember I existed. But in this moment, with Dad's steady presence beside me and the weight of truth between us, I realize that invisibility has only enabled their behavior. I press the buttons one by one, each digit a step toward something new. The line rings, and a voice answers. Child Protective Services, how can I help you? I take a deep breath and find my voice at last. My name is Brianna Anderson. My mother and stepfather abandoned me at Memorial Hospital to go on vacation. Dad squeezes my hand, his eyes shining with a mixture of pride and fierce protection. As I begin telling my story to the woman on the phone, I feel something shifting inside me, like a door long closed is finally swinging open. Many families have secrets, problems kept hidden behind closed doors and polite smiles. But sometimes it takes a single moment of courage to shine light on years of darkness. As the evening shadows stretch across the hospital room, I realize that being left behind might be the very thing that sets me free. The steady tapping of Mrs. Ellison's pen against her notepad fills the silence as she reviews the stack of papers in front of her. She's been with us for nearly 2 hours now, her gentle demeanor masking a steely purpose that becomes more evident with each new document she examines. So they left you there, she says, not really a question. Her voice carries no judgment, just a quiet certainty that makes my eyes burn with unexpected tears. And this wasn't the first time you were overlooked. Dad shifts beside me on the couch, his hand finding mine. The weight of it anchors me as I nod. No. I managed, my voice steadier than I expected. It wasn't the first time. Mrs. Ellison, with her sensible cardigan and kind eyes, doesn't rush me. Instead, she waits, giving space for the truth to unfold at its own pace. I've never had an adult wait for me like this before. Could you tell me about the other times, Brianna? She asks, her pen poised. Take your time. So I do. I tell her about the school events where my chair sat empty while Mom cheered at Lucas's games. About the family photos where I was asked to step aside. About the vacations I learned about through social media posts. About the bedroom in the back of the house that used to be a storage closet, until Ava decided she needed more space. With each revelation, Mrs. Ellison's pen moves across the page, transforming my pain into official documentation. For the first time, someone is creating a record of what's happened to me. I'm taking this very seriously, she says when I finish, closing her notebook with deliberate care. Very seriously indeed. The hospital becomes an unexpected ally in a way I never imagined possible. Communities used to look out for all their children. Nurse Johnson tells me as she brings in a colleague from pediatrics who wants to add her observations to the case file. Some of us still remember that duty. By afternoon, a small army has mobilized. The attending physician provides detailed notes about Mom's disinterest in my treatment plan. The hospital's social worker joins forces with CPS, bringing years of experience to my case. The administrative staff discovers inconsistencies in how my insurance was filed. Mark listed himself as not responsible for my medical costs. People think documentation is just paperwork, the hospital administrator says, handing a file to Mrs. Ellison. Her silver hair catches the fluorescent light as she shakes her head. But sometimes it's the only way to protect someone who can't protect themselves. The security team provides footage of Mom and Mark walking out. Mom glancing back once before Mark's hand at her elbow guides her forward. Lucas trailing behind them, already looking at his phone. Ava hesitating a moment longer than the others. I watch strangers become champions for me, fighting with professional determination and quiet dignity. They don't know me, yet they care what happens to me. The realization settles like a warm blanket around my shoulders. Dad's phone rings as we're preparing to leave the hospital. He glances at the screen, his jaw tightening before he answers and puts it on speaker. Yes, Rebecca, he says, his voice carefully neutral. What do you mean CPS is involved? We're on vacation. Mom's voice crackles through the sounds of waves and distant music, creating a jarring backdrop to her panic. The Miami sunshine audible in every syllable while I sit in the sterile hospital light. Dad's eyes meet mine, a silent question. I nod slightly. Yes, you are, he says. That's precisely the problem. There's a scuffling sound, and then Mark's voice cuts through, sharp with indignation. This is ridiculous. She's fine in the hospital. We paid for her care. She needed her mother, Dad says simply. Not a nurse. Her mother. More muffled conversation follows before Mark comes back on. We're cutting our trip short. This is blown completely out of proportion. Do you have any idea how much this is costing us? Not as much as it's going to, Mrs. Ellison murmurs, just loud enough for Dad to hear. As Dad ends the call, I catch a snippet of Lucas's voice in the background. This is so unfair. And Ava's quieter tones asking something I can't make out. For the first time, I feel a glimmer of satisfaction through the hurt. Their perfect family vacation crumbling like a sandcastle at high tide. Dad's apartment is small but warm, with a rhythm all its own. No tiptoeing past Mark's home office. No holding my breath when Lucas is in a mood. The spare bedroom has a real bed, with a blue comforter and curtains that match not hand-me-downs or afterthoughts. While I settle in, Mrs. Ellison conducts her home assessment at Mom and Mark's house. She returns with photographs and a grim expression. I'd like to show you what I found, she says, spreading images across Dad's kitchen table. The contrast is stark and undeniable. Lucas's room with its gaming system, large screen television, and custom furniture. Ava's space with a walk-in closet and vanity. And then my room, the converted storage space with a twin bed, a small desk from a thrift store, and walls still showing marks where shelves once hung. I also spoke with your neighbors, Mrs. Ellison says, adding more papers to her file. Mrs. Peterson mentioned seeing you waiting outside several times when they forgot to leave a key. Dad's hand tightens around his coffee mug. How often did that happen, Bree? I stare at the photographs, memories surfacing. When they'd go out for family dinner, usually once or twice a month. Mrs. Winters down the street said she offered to drive you to school events when your mother couldn't, Mrs. Ellison continues. And Mr. Carlson confirmed that while your stepbrother had a birthday party every year with dozens of guests, yours went unmarked. My chest tightens. I'd never realized how many people had noticed. How many had seen what was happening and felt powerless to help. Mrs. Ellison makes another note. Your school provided these records as well. She slides a printout toward us. Your mother attended one parent-teacher conference in the last 3 years. For comparison, she attended all of Lucas's sports events and 12 conferences for him and Ava during the same period. Something about seeing it all laid out like this, clinical and undeniable, makes it both more painful and somehow easier to bear. It's not just in my head, it's real, and everyone can see it too. 3 days later, we sit in a small office as Mrs. Ellison delivers the news. The judge has granted temporary custody to you, Mr. Anderson, pending the full hearing. She hands Dad a document with an official seal. Brianna can return to the house with supervision to collect her belongings. The words seem to hang in the air. Impossible yet real. I'm not going back there. Not to live. Dad looks at me. Ready to get your things? The house feels different when we pull into the driveway. Smaller somehow. Less intimidating. The shadows that once seemed to stretch across the entire property now just look like ordinary shade from ordinary trees. My room takes less than an hour to pack. Clothes, books, a few photographs, the quilt my grandmother made before she died. Evidence of a life kept small. As I'm checking the closet one last time, my fingers brush against something wedged behind the top shelf. I pull it free, a photo album I haven't seen in years. Inside are pictures from before Mark, Mom and me at the beach, Dad teaching me to ride a bike, the 3 of us at my 5th birthday party, Mom's smile genuine and relaxed in a way I barely remember. She kept these, I whisper, showing Dad. He runs a finger gently over one of the photos. Let's make some new memories now, he says softly. That night, in my new room with its matching curtains and comforter, I sleep without waking for the first time in years. No listening for footsteps. No anxiety about whether I've made myself small enough to avoid notice. No mental preparation for whatever new way Lucas might find to remind me I don't belong. In the quiet darkness, I feel something building in my shoulders, a tentative strength I haven't known before. The thought forms clearly in my mind as I drift toward sleep. Maybe I deserve better than what they gave me. Maybe I always did. It feels like the first deep breath after years of shallow ones. It feels like the beginning of something real. The sound of the front door slamming echoes through Daniel's apartment like a thunderclap. I flinch, despite the fact that I've been expecting this moment for 3 days. Where is she? Mark's voice booms from the entryway. Where's Brianna? I catch Dad's eye from where I sit at the kitchen table, my history textbook open in front of me. He gives me a reassuring nod before stepping into the hallway. Mark. Dad's voice remains steady. This isn't appropriate. You need to leave. I peek around the corner. Mark stands in the entryway, Miami tan stark against his white golf shirt, hands planted on his hips like he owns the place. The fading pink across his nose contrasts with the red flush of anger creeping up his neck. This is ridiculous, Mark says, his voice dropping to that controlled tone I know too well, the one that precedes his worst moments. You've blown this completely out of proportion. A CPS investigation isn't something anyone blows out of proportion. Dad replies. Mark's eyes find me, and his expression shifts in an instant. The anger vanishes, replaced by a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. Brianna, sweetheart, there you are. His voice drips with artificial sweetness. We need to talk, just us. Like family. Dad steps between us. She doesn't have to speak with you. 5 minutes, Mark insists, reaching into his pocket. That's all I need. I notice Dad's hand slip into his jacket pocket. The slight movement would be imperceptible to Mark, but I recognize immediately he's starting a recording. Fine, Dad says. 5 minutes. I'll be right here. Mark approaches the kitchen table, pulling out a chair with a scrape against the linoleum. His cologne, expensive kind he brags about, fills the small space, making my stomach turn. Brianna, he begins, leaning forward, elbows on the table. This has gone far enough. You've made your point. I say nothing, my fingers gripping my pencil so tightly it might snap. Your mother is devastated. Is that what you wanted? He doesn't wait for an answer. This situation is hurting everyone. Lucas is being questioned at school. Your mother's friends are talking. Our membership at Oakwood Country Club is under review. Is that fair to them? Was leaving me alone in the hospital fair? The words escape before I can stop them. Mark's smile tightens. That was unfortunate timing. But you were perfectly safe with medical professionals. We've apologized. What more do you want? He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a crisp $500 bill, sliding it across the table toward me. The gesture is so unexpected, so brazen, that I stare at it in disbelief. Let's make this go away. He continues, his voice low. Drop this nonsense with CPS. Tell them it was all a misunderstanding. We'll start fresh. I'll even let you choose where we go for spring break. Let me? The word catches in my throat. I'll talk to your mother about increasing your allowance too. Maybe a new home? His finger taps the bill, pushing it closer to me. Everyone makes mistakes, Brianna. It's time to move on. The rain starts outside, a gentle patter against the window that grows stronger by the second. Somehow, it gives me courage. I'm not for sale, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. Mark's facade cracks. Don't be dramatic. I'm trying to help you. By bribing me? His hand slams down on the table. Enough. Do you have any idea what you've done? My firm is asking questions. The club membership committee is reviewing our status. He leans closer, voice dropping to a venomous whisper. You think your life was difficult before? You have no idea what difficult looks like. Dad appears in the doorway. Time's up, Mark. We're having a private conversation. Mark snaps. Not anymore, Dad says, holding up his phone. And bribing a minor to interfere with the CPS investigation? That's a separate charge altogether. The color drains from Mark's face. You recorded me? That's illegal. 1. Party consent state, Dad replies calmly. Now leave, before I call the police. Mark stands so quickly his chair topples backward. He points a finger at me. Your mother chose me, not you. Remember that. After he storms out, the apartment falls quiet except for the rain. Dad picks up the $500 bill with a tissue and seals it in an envelope. Evidence. he explains, then sits beside me. You okay? I nod, though my hands are shaking. The doorbell rings an hour later. It's Mom this time alone. Her eyes are red-rimmed, her perfect makeup unable to hide the strain. The diamond tennis bracelet at her wrist, Marg's push present when Ava was born, catches the light as she twists her hands. Brianna, she begins, her voice barely above a whisper. What have you done? Not, how are you? Not, I'm sorry I abandoned you. Instead, I'm the problem to be solved. I told the truth, reply. Do you know what this is doing to us? Her voice rises with each word. Mark might lose his position at the firm. They've canceled our dinner invitation to the partners' gala next week. Mrs. Hathaway hasn't returned my call since we got back. Dad steps into the room. Rebecca, if you're here to pressure Brianna, I'm here to talk sense into my daughter. Mom snaps. Mark says this will all go away if she just tells CPS it was a misunderstanding. Like you misunderstood leaving her alone in a hospital? Dad's tone is but firm. Mom's face crumples. You don't understand. We have a life, Daniel. A position in the community. And Brianna is what? An inconvenient accessory? That's not fair. Mom cries, but her eyes dart away from mine. I've always taken care of her. When it didn't interfere with Mark's plans, I whisper. The confirmation in her silence hurts more than any denial would have. I got a call today, Dad says, changing the subject. From her. Mom's head snaps up. Mark's ex-wife? Why would she? She heard about the investigation through their mutual friends. Seems she has some stories of her own about Mark's controlling behavior. Dad crosses his arms. She's willing to testify. The color drains from Mom's face. This can't be happening. My phone pings with a text. I glance down to see Lucas has posted on social media. Some people will do anything for attention, even ruin their own family. Before I can react, another text comes in from Ava. I'm sorry about what Lucas posted, and I'm sorry for not standing up for you before. Can we talk? Mom notices my expression. What is it now? I show her Lucas's post. Still thinking the problem? She takes the phone, scrolling with trembling fingers. Rain streams down the windows behind her, matching the tears that begin to fall as she reads Ava's message. Mark assured me you were fine at the hospital. He said you were being dramatic. Her voice cracks. And I believed him because it was easier. For once, there's no excuse following her admission, just the sound of rain washing away pretense. The Simpsons canceled their barbecue invitation, she whispers, as if this somehow equals what I've endured. 20 years of friendships just evaporating. I should feel satisfaction at their perfect life crumbling, but all I feel is a hollow ache. You could have chosen differently, Mom. She reaches for my hand across the table, but stops short of touching me. Outside, the downpour intensifies, symbolic of the facade washing away, revealing the broken family beneath all that perfect polish. What do you need from me? She finally asks, the question years too late. I look at her, and for the first time, I see not just my mother, but a woman who built her life on appearances rather than substance. And now that the facade is crumbling, she has no idea who she is beneath it all. The truth, I answer simply. Start with that. The courtroom feels smaller than I expected. Polished wood gleams under fluorescent lights that miss nothing, not the tightness around my father's jaw, not Mark's perfectly pressed suit, not the tremble in my hands. I smoothed down my simple blue dress, the one Dad and I picked out yesterday. Remember, he'd said, you don't need fancy clothes. The truth stands on its own. Now I cling to those words as we take our seats on the left side of the aisle. The wooden bench feels cool and solid beneath me, something to anchor myself to as Rebecca and Mark enter with their attorney. My mother doesn't look at me. She's wearing pearls I've never seen before, her hair swept into an elegant updo that makes her look like a stranger. Mark's hand rests possessively on her lower back, steering her toward their table. Behind them, Lucas slouches in with practiced indifference, while Ava's eyes flicker toward me before darting away. All rise. The judge enters, a woman with silver-streaked hair and reading glasses perched at the end of her nose. She surveys the room with eyes that seem to see everything at once. Be seated. The proceedings begin with a clinical recitation of facts. The CPS caseworker presents her findings in a measured voice, but the weight of her words fills the room. The minor child was abandoned in a hospital setting with serious injuries, while the mother and stepfather proceeded to a vacation valued at approximately $15,000. Each piece of evidence lands like a stone. Financial records showing years of disparity. School documents with a pattern of Rebecca attending Lucas's events while missing mine. Text messages between Mark and Rebecca discussing their hasty departure from the hospital. The security footage playing on a screen, Mark checking his watch impatiently. Rebecca glancing once toward my room before they walk away, laughing about something as the doors slide closed behind them. I fix my gaze on a spot on the wall, but I can't block out the murmurs that ripple through the courtroom. When the recording of Mark's bribe attempt plays, his voice fills the space. $500, and this all goes away. Be reasonable, Brianna. A muscle jumps in Mark's jaw. Rebecca's shoulders curve inward. The court calls enters. My head snaps up. Ava? Nobody told me she would testify. Mark's head turns sharply toward his daughter as she rises from her seat, her steps hesitant as she approaches the witness stand. Under the harsh lights, she looks younger than her 15 years. After being sworn in, she sits with her hands folded tightly in her lap. When she speaks, her voice comes out thin but determined. My father told us what to say to the social worker, she begins. Mark's attorney stands. Objection, Your Honor. Overruled. The judge says, her eyes never leaving Ava. Continue, Miss Winters. Ava draws a shaky breath. He said we needed to tell them that Brianna was treated the same as us, that she was making things up for attention. Her voice gains strength. But it wasn't true. Dad always said Brianna wasn't really family, that she was just someone we had to deal with until she turned 18. A sharp intake of breath sounds from somewhere behind me. Beside me, Dad's hand tightens on mine. And how did your father refer to visitation with Brianna's father? Ava's asked. He called it a waste of time and money. Ava's eyes find mine across the courtroom. He said real family sticks together, and that meant forgetting about Daniel. Mark's face has turned a dangerous shade of red. Rebecca stares at her lap, shoulders shaking slightly. As Ava steps down, a woman I've never seen before slips into the courtroom and takes a seat in the back row. Something about her seems familiar. When she catches Mark's eye, his expression shifts from anger to alarm. The judge speaks again, her voice cutting through the hushed courtroom with quiet authority. In 30 years on this bench, I've seen many families in crisis, but rarely have I witnessed such deliberate erasure of a child's place within her home. She removes her glasses, fixing Rebecca with a steady gaze. Mrs. Winters, your choices have demonstrated a profound failure to protect your daughter. Rebecca flinches as if struck. The court finds clear and convincing evidence of neglect and emotional abuse. The judge continues. Full custody is hereby awarded to Daniel Anderson, with Rebecca Winters granted supervised visitation only, pending completion of court-ordered parenting classes and family therapy. She pauses, turning a page in her notes. Further, Mr. Winters is barred from any contact with Brianna Anderson, effective immediately and continuing indefinitely. Mark's jaw clenches, but he stays silent. Mrs. Winters will provide monthly child support payments of $1,000 until Brianna reaches 18, and will contribute equally to any medical expenses not covered by insurance. The judge looks directly at my mother. Additionally, you will establish a college fund with initial funding of $5,000, with monthly contributions moving forward. The gavel strikes with finality. This court is forwarding all evidence to the district attorney's office for a review of potential criminal charges. We are adjourned. Mark's carefully constructed composure shatters. This is outrageous. You can't. Mr. Winters, the judge cuts in, her voice steel wrapped in velvet. I suggest you refrain from giving this court any further reason to find you in contempt. As we rise, the mysterious woman approaches our table. Dad seems to recognize her, nodding slightly. Daniel, she says quietly. I'm Jessica, Mark's ex-wife. She glances toward Ava and Lucas. Given what's happened here today, I'll be filing for full custody of my children tomorrow morning. Lucas's face pales as he overhears. Ava remains at the witness stand, tears streaming silently down her face. Mark won't look at her. Outside, sunlight spills across the courthouse steps, unexpectedly bright after the somber wood tones inside. Reporters cluster at the bottom, cameras raised. Mr. Winters, is it true North Star Financial is reviewing your position following these allegations? Mrs. Winters, has the country club board suspended your membership? Mark pushes past them, his face a thundercloud. Rebecca follows, her head bowed. Dad's arm settles around my shoulders, solid and secure. You were brave in there, he says quietly. Your daughter's case has exposed a pattern of behavior, Jessica tells my father as she joins us. The country club, Mark's firm, even their church, everyone's watching now. Their perfect image is crumbling. For the first time since the hearing began, I feel my shoulders straighten. No, I say, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. Ava was brave. I just told the truth. As we descend the steps, I realize something has shifted inside me. The truth, finally spoken aloud in that courtroom, has set something free. I am no longer left behind. The reporters turn toward us now, but Dad guides me gently toward the car. Behind us, I hear Mark's raised voice, the sound of a man watching everything he values slip through his fingers. Justice arrived in a wood-paneled room with fluorescent lights, delivered by a judge who saw through the facade to the truth beneath. And in that moment of reckoning, a family built on appearances finally faced reality. The morning sun streams through lavender curtains, my choice, not someone else's, casting gentle patterns across my bedroom wall. I take a deep breath, savoring the simple pleasure of waking up in a space that feels like mine. Dad painted these walls myself, the soft blue-gray I picked from what felt like 100 paint samples. It's your sanctuary, he'd said, roller in hand, paint speckling his faded jeans. It should feel like you. A year has passed since the hospital room, where everything changed. The framed photographs on my dresser tell the story of this new chapter, Dad and me at the state park, hiking trail maps clutched in our hands. The two of us covered in soil after planting our first garden together. No posed family portraits with stiff smiles and hidden tensions. Just genuine moments of connection. My gaze drifts to the wall where 3 certificates hang in simple frames. Trauma recovery milestone, cognitive behavioral therapy completion, and resilience workshop graduate. Each one represents months of hard work, of peeling back layers of doubt that had wrapped around my sense of self like vines. My therapist, Dr. Chen, wrote on my final evaluation, Brianna demonstrates exceptional emotional intelligence and self-awareness. Below the certificate sits my desk, cluttered with college applications and brochure, state universities with strong pre-med programs, each one a beacon of possibility that would have seemed impossible a year ago. The guidance counselor thinks I have a shot at a full scholarship, a future without financial strings attached to Mark or his demands. Plants are a lot like people, Brie, Dad had said last spring, showing me how to gently loosen the roots before setting them in fresh soil. Sometimes they need to be transplanted to really thrive. He'd looked at me then, his eyes crinkling with a mixture of sadness and hope. Just need the right conditions, the right care. I ran my fingers over the latest addition to my WAMI acceptance letter to the Support Group Facilitator Program. 3 months of training to help other teenagers navigate family trauma. My first session as a speaker last week still feels surreal, standing before a room of faces that reflected back my own past pain. Your worth isn't determined by how others treat you, I told them, my voice steady in a way I couldn't have imagined a year ago. That took me 16 years and 1 broken wrist to figure out. I pull my journal from the nightstand drawer, its pages filled with a year's worth of processing. Early entries shake with anger, the handwriting uneven and pressed hard into the paper. But the recent pages show something different: clarity. measured forgiveness, and plans for a future unburdened by Mark's shadow. His absence from my life has created space for growth I never knew was possible. A text from Lucas appears on my phone, rare and typically caustic. Mom's making me ask if you're coming to her birthday dinner. No pleasantries, no reconciliation. His resentment hasn't faded. If anything, watching his father's carefully constructed image crumble has only hardened his anger toward me. I set the phone down without responding. Some relationships can't and shouldn't be forced. A soft knock interrupts my thoughts. Dad stands in the doorway, 2 mugs of coffee in hand. "Morning, kiddo. Ready for your mom's visit today?" I nod, accepting the steaming mug. The supervised visits with Mom have evolved from stilted silence to something approaching honest conversation. Last time, she'd arrived without her usual armor, perfect makeup, and designer clothes. "I'm seeing a new therapist," she'd said, hands fidgeting with her purse strap. "Someone who doesn't let me hide behind excuses." The envelope from her therapy session sits on my nightstand. I've read it so many times I practically know it by heart. "I failed you in ways a mother should never fail her child. There is no excuse for leaving you alone in that hospital. No vacation, no relationship. Nothing should have ever come before you. I cannot undo what I did, but I promise I will spend every day trying to earn back even the smallest piece of your trust." Dad sits on the edge of my bed, careful not to spill his coffee. "You know you don't have to see her if you're not ready." I know. And I do know the power of that choice still feels like a revelation. But I think I want to, on my terms. The garden awaits us after breakfast, the rows of vegetables and flowers we've nurtured from tiny seeds. Some days I still marvel at how something so beautiful can grow from such difficult circumstances. Yesterday, I spotted the first tomato beginning to ripen, a small victory hanging heavy on the vine. My phone buzzes with a text from Ava. Our relationship remains complicated, tenuous trust, rebuilding one careful conversation at a time, free from Mark's toxic influence. "Good luck with your mom today. Call me after if you want to talk." As I help Dad water the garden, my thoughts drift to last month's minor car accident, the fender bender that sent us to the emergency room for precautionary x-rays. I remember the panic that flashed across my face, the old fears resurging. "I'm not going anywhere," Dad had said instantly, reading my expression with perfect clarity. He'd stayed beside me through the entire examination, his hand steady on my shoulder. That moment crystallized everything I've learned this year. Real family doesn't leave when things get difficult. Real family stays. Later, I'll sit with Mom and set another boundary, explain another consequence. I'll listen to her apologies and watch her actions carefully. I'll decide again how much of myself to share. But right now, in this garden where broken things are becoming whole, I'm exactly where I need to be.